Hi, it's Anya Devine here. Have a look at the links below if you want to know more about what I do. I'm here with a lovely group of strong, powerful women in Kilkenzie House, and we've got lovely Charmaine modelling for us. But I'm just going to focus on a demonstration of of painting the eye at this stage. And just got 10 minutes, so I'm going to have to really focus. And it's no harm, I was saying earlier, it's kind of no harm having that sense of urgency. Sometimes it makes you select what's important when you know that you've got a time limit. So this is the painting I started earlier this morning. And I've got a kind of a landscape within which the eye is going to sit. And now what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to bring this eye up into a bit more detail. Now the rest of the face, I would recommend that you kind of travel around the rest of the face. Like I said yesterday, bring up detail everywhere. If you're doing a bit to the eye, that you would bring the same tone, same colour into the rest of the image and keep coming back in. But for the purposes of the demonstration, I am going to focus just on the eye so that we can, so that I can kind of give a few pointers as to what I find helpful when painting the eye. So like I said yesterday, if you were to find the shape of the space between the eyebrow and the eyelid, that'll really help to kind of find the position of the eye without having the worry of painting an eye, If you were to focus on the, like I said yesterday, I think the two directions of the eyebrow, and then to find the direction of the eyelid as it comes up through the eyebrow. Locate the upper lid. And I did that with some reddish paint there because that's the colour that I see in the skin between the eyebrow and the eye. And of course standing back regularly. And then I'm going to make it a slightly different colour. So like I was saying yesterday, I keep saying like I was saying yesterday, but when you're painting the eye, it's helpful to use different colours to differentiate parts from each other. So rather than have the same colour that I've used there below the eye, I've put in some burnt sienna. Where's my scrap paper, for God's sake? I just use some of your scrap paper. So rather than have the same reddish colour underneath the eye, I've put some burnt sienna in to give it a different quality of a different colour. Okay, and steadying yourself, really focus on the part you want to explain. I'm just changing the shadow that was there already to be truer to what I'm looking for, and I'm going to fill in with this warm colour. Now that I've kind of adjusted that colour, I want to also adjust here to make this point a little bit darker. So this is a very helpful shadow to locate where the eye socket meets the bridge of the nose. And as I do that, when I stood back, I did want to bring some of that same shadow, that same tone, down the side of the nose. Just to kind of illustrate really what I would like you to do more of, even when you're painting the eye, that you would continually step back and look at where else you can bring things up. But it helps me to know where this shadow is going to be located when I'm going to paint more into the eye. So I want to find the shadow that runs along the side of the nose there. And I'm going to lift it up a bit. I don't want it to be so dark. So there-ish, I think, is fine. Just lifting up some of the colour so that it's not quite so dark. And then I'm going to pick up some cadmium orange, which looks like that. And this is actually, I think I do this as well because I want the eye to dry a little before going back into it. So that's maybe also why I decided to come out a little bit from the eye and do things like print the light edge of the nose here with the cadmium orange. I think that's okay. There's something in the shadow that's underneath here that I could adjust as well, just to lift some of that so that it's not quite so clearly ending there. So it leaves it kind of undecided, which kind of suits me. But I think that orangey colour could also be used here a little. Maybe in there even. It's brighter than I expected, but sure, it's okay. All right, so I'm going to go back now into the eye area again with the 1/4 inch brush. And I want to, with my eyes half closed, I've located where the real darks are there, and I'm going to make those darks by mixing the ultramarine blue, which looks like that, with the burnt sienna. So the two together, or you could mix it with the Van Dyke brown, but even those two together make a kind of an almost Indian ink consistency. And I want to emphasize more fully the dark in the eyebrow there with this Indian inky color. And I'm going to locate the position of the eye, of the iris, where it would run, where it would meet the eyebrow. If I were to draw a line up from the iris, where would it meet the eyebrow? And it's almost at the bend in the eyebrow, where it stops going that way and starts going that way, is where I think the iris is located. So something like maybe around there. I'm also kind of noticing where it is in relation to the nose below it. I'm wanting to do something more in the nose there as well, in that colour. Okay, so finding the position of the iris still. Let's see now. Yeah. And actually, as I do that, it's making me want to drop the lower lid down a little bit further. Do you know how we were talking about that upper surface of the lower lid catching the light? I think that needs to drop a little bit down from the eyebrow. So I'm going to lift off some of that dark shadow so that it can read more as the upper surface of the lower lid. And now I can go back and make the iris a bit more convincing again. Okay. Yeah, I think actually it's going to help if I have the inner corner of the eye being really quite dark. You okay? Oh yeah. It's just the easel's doing a little dance over there. The inner corner of the eye being quite dark is helpful there, I reckon. And then I can find where the iris is in relation to that. But I don't want to go near that because it's a bit wet and I want it to stay light, the upper surface of the lower lid. So instead I'm going to find out where the outer corner of the eye will be located now. And I think that's slightly higher than the inner corner, or maybe along the same line, if anything slightly higher. And then I'll find where the light catches the upper lid. And that steeper line in, yeah. I know the iris looks a bit wonky, but it's just because it's wet around it that I don't want to adjust it now. So again, you kind of need to tolerate things looking a bit strange until it's dry enough that you can go back to it. So see what else is possible to do around it. Just put a bit more blue into that colour there. And now I think it's a good idea to go back into the iris now. Find something, see something about this area. Yeah, it looks to me like I was saying that the upper lid, the upper lashes kind of cast a shadow almost onto the top of the iris. It's kind of helpful to see it as though that's the case anyway, that there's the dark of the upper lashes can kind of, that's where the dark is accumulating in the eye. It's helpful for the dark to accumulate there. And I'm going to bring the dark around to here as well. And now I'm going to look at where the iris will stop and the white of the eye might begin. There's like an arc where the iris comes up around to meet the light that's on that little bit of the lid there. Yeah, and I think I could probably bring some more tone into the shadow beyond the eyebrow. Yeah, and then I'll find where the lid stops and the socket of the eye begins here. And in that line. And then there's something in the warmth of the shadow that comes up to meet the upper surface of the lower lid from below. That might be a good place to go next, I would say. Something a little bit warmer there. Let's just see. I'm getting there. And now I want to excavate out some of the white of the eye on the left side of the iris because it's reading as too wide here. And also there is something between the iris and the inner corner of the eye. There's something there that isn't iris. And I think a bit of burnt sienna or something, a bit of burnt sienna or something warm in the skin here would be useful to Maybe even out here as well. Need a bit more colour in the brush. And a bit more colour again. So I'm putting a bit of cadmium red into the burnt sienna. Because I reckon I need a bit more warmth out here. For some reason I kind of want this to come out a bit more. And maybe with a touch of sap green into that colour, it'll settle in the inner corner of the eye here will settle in a little bit more.